Autonomous cars and robots in general give us a huge opportunity to change the way we think about pretty well everything. So if you start looking at this, you think, okay, well, what about it then? One of the real problems we have, of course, is that the world is going to change hugely. We've urbanized half the world's population, but we still got 2 billion people to go in the next 30, 40, 50 years, and that's what most of them have to put up with. The bottom left, incidentally, is the London Underground. We have chosen already that we want a flexible system. And this is the most important thing of the car on the road. It's flexible, it's convenient, it's on demand, it takes you where you want to go, when you want to go.
Today, streets are dangerous places. Our children can't play there. Cars are far too dangerous. Autonomous cars are coming. They'll be so much safer. They will refuse to run over a child that strays into its path. And they will need far less space. Here we show the intersections of the below-ground system. The main tunnels have 2 parallel lanes, much narrower than a normal road, because the car's digital trains are robotically controlled. Cities grow, and sometimes they outgrow their initial infrastructure. What is needed is a system that can grow organically and fuse with existing infrastructure. CarTube, as a decentralized and underground system, will seamlessly expand as the city grows. In today's city, infrastructure is often a barrier. Districts are separated by motorways and railways. By putting CarTube underground, we free up land for people and parks. Within the CarTube protocol, vehicles could flow directly from below ground to the top floors of ultra-high buildings. CarTube is the next best thing to teleportation.
Okay, let's have the next slide. Right, so one of the things that you don't realize properly with autonomous cars is that not only can they drive nose to tail much closer, but they can also drive sideways much closer. So instead of having a 3.5 meter lane, you can get down to a 2.5 meter lane. And if you look at the excavation cost, which is most of the cost of a tunnel, an ordinary 3-lane motorway has the same capacity as a 2-lane automated road, and it's 6 times more expensive to build the big tunnel. And if you look at the size of the intersections, you're talking a completely different scale. So this is the main equation that determines pretty well everything to do with every transport system, which is the passenger density multiplied by the speed. This gives you the capacity per person. So you think, well, trains do exactly that. But trains have very high local passenger density, but most of the time, the tunnel is empty. So if you look at this at the top, you have got the car tube, which is just rolling and rolling. At the bottom, you've got a train. And most of the time, that tunnel is empty. So how do we make this work? Well, platooning has been around for more than a decade now. Every major car manufacturer have run trials on it. So the technology exists, and it will get much better with 5G. I was in Gothenburg talking about it with the 5G people recently. Here is the real reason why it matters about how you lay out the network. Because if you look at the top one, that is Crossrail in London, and if it's fully packed, you get 18,000 passengers per hour. That is if the train is completely full. At the bottom, you can get twice the capacity if you just run cars very close together. But, and this is the trick, look at the blue line, it doesn't stop. The train stops, and that is a fundamental mistake of trains. So what kind of vehicle are we likely to use? The sort of right thing on the right is what's likely to be the kind of thing of the future. Who knows what it'll look like, but certainly trams will disappear. You need a segregated track to get the speed up, because unless you have reasonable speed, you can't get capacity. If you travel too fast, you kill people, as in the top right. Physics tell you that you can't, in urban areas where there are people and bicyclists, you can't drive more than 30 miles an hour, 50 kilometers an hour, 60 kilometers an hour, because your vehicle will not stop. It's simple physics. It's got nothing to do with control systems. So this is the kind of system that we envisage for London. And you say, well, where does it begin and where does it start? Well, it starts where the motorway stops. It starts before the first traffic light. And that's the key. We've already got the motorways will become automated, and then we will have a system. It would work in Berlin as well, of course. And it will work in Stockholm, which is my hometown. So this is looking at the kind of network, grid network that you need. So this is the intersection, so you need to have controls to, so that they can smoothly join each other. You need to predict the spacing, and you need to make sure that it just runs at a steady speed. 80 kilometers is something we picked at random. Now, one of the things that's interesting, if you look at two parallel lanes like that, you then realize that actually, as you turn, you can turn at 90 degrees, and provided the steady speed and you have gaps, you can make the cars just run past each other like that. No problem. Which you don't want to do unless your car is automatically controlled, of course. You really don't want to do that by hand. So the real problem with this system here is the inputs equal the grid, but the only control you need is the exit point, because if the exit gets overcrowded, then it backs up the system stops working. So let's just think of a sort of system typically of what it might be if you have the halfway house of, instead of the cars just going on the road, but actually using stations. The key point here is that you see the white cars are traveling and they're not stopping. Only cars that are picking up or dropping off people are stopping. And this is the main fallacy about all underground railway systems, is they stop at every station, which is a fundamental flaw in the whole thinking of the system. And I've only got 3 minutes left. Ah, right. Okay, we'll go next one. And this is the kind of thing that you can do. You can then wipe out all these intersections and just put and replace them with tunnels underneath. So we deserve better speeds. You know, it's ridiculous that average speed in cities are 25 kilometers an hour. We're killing people all left, right, and center. It's completely insane. We mustn't kill people. And we must, of course, have a sustainable system to get rid of petrol, have an incitement for people to have electric cars. And noise is another big issue that we need to tackle. This is 19th century thinking. This is completely insane. Car parks that feeds trains, and then when you are in the train, you then have to go and change from one line to another. Completely insane system. And why did we ever end up with it? I have no idea. This is kind of what you can do to convert your motorway into the entrance lane. So other people are talking about a similar sort of idea. A driver who has a meeting in the city is very happy to have booked a car tube slot. Getting close to the M4 car tube entrance, the car prepares to join the platoon and the driverless mode is engaged. This means that the driver can take his hands off the steering wheel. The car tube system is now driving the car. Journeys with car tube are astonishingly fast. With traditional car traffic, the journey from M4 to the embankment would have taken at least 40 minutes, but it will take only 14 minutes in the car tube. As the car enters the tunnel, the system offers choices of entertainment. The driver might want to watch a film or do some emails. Instead of the noisy fracas of stop and start motorway journeys, the car tube is quiet and smooth, flowing at a constant speed of 50 miles per hour. The car becomes a cocoon of privacy that completely erases the perception of. Okay, so this is the policy of how you actually run it, because rush time is the real problem. This is what I call the Trump policy. The Trump policy says, if you can pay, you will get in. And this is probably a more sensible policy, which is kind of the Berlin policy, which says, you know, no, we have to share vehicles. And, you know, maybe in the middle of the day, we can allow private cars that have, but are shared, in preference, will travel in the system. So what does it do to our cities? So this is what Corbusier promised us. And this is what we got. And I defy anybody to say this is a good solution. It isn't. It's horrible. And so, you know, we can look at retrofitting some of these ideas onto existing cities. This is Barcelona, where they've been talking about creating districts with no traffic thing. This is a sort of typical cut through a cut and cover tunnel. So you get, you know, you start walking down towards the station where, you know, you just go and pick your thing up. But the street is for people, for cars, for trees, for kids to play, for cafes. You know, no bloody cars on the street. It's a stupid idea. So we have some research ongoing, which is we're going to start next week in Sweden, a research project, a small one initially, to study it. The thing to remember about it is we've already done this once, which in Paris, but we put different technology down the tunnels. We put trains down the tunnels. Why don't we put cars down the tunnels? Of course, you can extend this into 3 dimensions, which is another project we're working on. It's called SkyPod, which you can look at. And this is the end of it. I've done it. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.